What happens to the wishes you start but never finish? They say there is a city where every single building is made from half-finished wishes. From a distance, it looks like any other city, a sprawling skyline shimmering with 1,000 points of light. But as you get closer, you start to see the truth. The towers have windows, but only on the first few floors. Bridges reach out over rivers, but stop abruptly in the middle, their steel skeletons pointing to nothing. Street signs hang with missing letters, promising destinations they can't quite name. From far away, it's beautiful, a testament to ambition and new beginnings. But up close, it feels a little tired. It's a city built on the energy of starting, not the strength of finishing. Every corner you turn, you feel the ghosts of forgotten passions. The streets are paved with good intentions, but they lead nowhere. The air is thick with the scent of what could have been a bittersweet perfume of abandoned dreams. It's a place that whispers a story of 1,000,000 brilliant ideas that were loved for a moment and then left behind. One day, a young traveler arrived there. They stepped off a dusty bus with a heavy backpack on their shoulders and an even heavier heart. They looked around at the strange, incomplete landscape with wide, searching eyes. This traveler had walked down many paths in their short life. They had tried to be an artist, a scholar, a musician, an entrepreneur. They'd started each journey with a fire in their belly, a vision of who they could become. But each time, somewhere in the middle, the fire would sputter and die, leaving behind only the cold ashes of self-doubt. They had come to this city of unfinished things, hoping to find an answer. They believed that by walking among the abandoned dreams of others, they might finally understand their own pattern of quitting. They weren't looking for a new dream. They were looking for a reason why all their old ones had failed. They hoped this strange, broken place would finally show them who they were meant to be, or perhaps who they were never meant to be at all. As they walked through the quiet streets, they saw a bakery. The smell of freshly baked bread was so real, so wonderful, it made their stomach ache with hunger. But when they walked up to it, they realized it had no door. It was just a beautiful facade with an empty space where an entrance should have been. A little further on, they passed a music school. Through the windows, they could see gleaming guitars and grand pianos, their polished surfaces reflecting the fading light. But the classrooms were silent. There were instruments, but no teachers. There were stages, but no performers. They saw parks with swing sets that swayed gently in the breeze, but there were no children laughing as they soared toward the sky. They saw libraries with half-empty shelves and community centers with locked doors. Everywhere they looked, it was the same story. Someone had started with a burst of excitement, a rush of inspiration. You could almost feel the initial joy. But then, inevitably, came the moment of doubt, the hurdle that seemed too high, the fear that it wasn't good enough. And so, they stopped. The traveler reached out to touch the cold brick of an unfinished wall, then pulled their hand back, as if the feeling of incompleteness was contagious. In the center of the city was a large, empty square. On a cracked stone bench, an old man sat quietly, feeding crumbs to a flock of pigeons that gathered at his feet. The evening light was soft on his wrinkled face, and he had a peaceful smile, as if he were exactly where he belonged. The traveler, feeling lost and overwhelmed, sat down on the other end of the bench. For a few moments, they just sat in silence, listening to the gentle cooing of the birds. Finally, the traveler turned to him and asked, their voice barely a whisper, "Why is everything here unfinished?" The old man didn't seem surprised by the question. He tossed another handful of crumbs and watched the birds flutter. Then he turned his kind eyes to the traveler and smiled gently. "'Cause," he said, his voice warm and steady, "many people believe that starting is the special part. They fall in love with the beginning. They believe that finishing is optional." He gestured to the half-built skyline around them. "This whole city is a monument to the idea that a good start is enough." The old man then reached into his worn coat pocket and pulled out a small, simple pocket mirror. It was old, the silvering slightly faded around the edges, but it still reflected clearly. He held it up, not to his own face, but to the traveler's. "What about you?" he asked, his voice soft but piercing. "How many wishes did you leave halfway? How many buildings have you started in this city?" The traveler stared at their own reflection. In the small circle of glass, they saw their tired eyes. And then, like a rapid series of flashes, they saw it all. The notebooks filled with the first chapters of novels that never got a second. The text messages written but never sent, confessing a feeling or an apology. The online courses paid for and abandoned after the first few lessons. The half-painted canvases hidden in the back of a closet. The project files left to gather digital dust on a hard drive, a knot twisted in their stomach. It was a physical, painful feeling. They looked away from the mirror, unable to meet their own gaze. They whispered, the word catching in their throat. "Too many." "Then choose one," the old man said softly, placing a gentle hand on their shoulder. His touch was comforting, not judging. "Don't try to fix them all. That's the same trap. You'll just start 10 new projects to fix the 10 old ones. Not 10, not 5. Just one. Choose one wish that you will carry with you all the way home." The traveler closed their eyes. Their mind was a whirlwind of forgotten hobbies and abandoned ambitions. But as they sat there, letting the noise settle, one image kept returning. It wasn't the easiest dream. It wasn't the most practical or the most impressive one. It was just the truest one. It was the one thing that had never stopped calling to them, a quiet hum beneath the noise of all the other new, exciting ideas. It was the wish they had tried to ignore the most, precisely because it mattered the most. And they knew, in that moment, which one it was. The traveler stood up. Their backpack still felt heavy, but their heart felt a little lighter. The city around them still looked the same broken, beautiful, and incomplete. But something inside them had shifted. Something felt more whole. They looked at the old man, who simply nodded as if he knew their decision without a word being spoken. They turned and started walking toward the edge of the city, back to the bus station. The unfinished buildings passed by them like slow, silent shadows, monuments to hesitation. But this time, The traveler didn't feel a part of them. They left without a grand, detailed plan. They left without a sudden burst of motivation. They left with something much smaller and much more powerful. One single, quiet promise to themselves. I will stop collecting new wishes, they thought, and I will start protecting this one. On the bus ride home, as the city of half-finished wishes faded into the rearview mirror, they took out a notebook, but they didn't write down a new dream. They didn't sketch out a grand vision. Instead, they wrote down the first tiny, simple step for the same dream, the one they had just chosen to protect, and then the next step, and the one after that. Outside the window, another city came into view. This one was different. It was full of normal, complete buildings. It was a place where things got done. A place where dreams didn't just begin, they grew brick by brick, day by day. The city of half-finished wishes stayed where it was, a permanent home for beginnings without ends. But the traveler knew they never really belonged there. They were finally ready to go home. They were finally ready to live.